Now, JT, thanks very much for joining us.
JTFOXX is my guest tonight. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you for being on the show. I love your show.
JTFOXX in our Cape Town studios. Thank you very much for being our guest.
That's JTFOXX with Al Pacino and Sylvester Stallone walking together, about to go on stage. Just 9 years ago, he was completely broke, and now he owns over 50 businesses and brands. He has bought and sold over 500 pieces of property, and has done business and spoken in over 30 countries. Many refer to him as the world's #1 wealth coach, and he knows, hangs out, and does business with some of the world's most successful people. He changes lives, and some say he has changed countries. His motto is simple: powered by your success. Here's the story of millionaire underdog, JTFOXX.
JTFOXX is one of the most incredible people. He is so spirited, he's anxious, he's young, he's talking, he's encouraging. He's one of the greatest motivators I've ever met in my life. He's one of the great inspirers to inspire you to want to do good things and achieve, what you can achieve.
You know what? I got the perfect story for Expendables 4.
Am I in it?
You are in it after tonight.
Your tie looks fantastic.
No, it's your tie that looks fantastic. I came in here and he just tied me up. There's one that, he just did.
A great friend of mine, JTFOXX, really amazing guy. I'm really thrilled he's in Africa of all places, because it means that he's not in my office here at the Trump Organization. It means that I'm not getting calls at all hours of the night, albeit that
I always advise people, if they don't have a mentor, go ask people. Like if
Would you like to be my mentor?
you go find somebody that's been successful.
I didn't hear an answer. I'm sorry.
I'll be your mentor, sure. I've mentored worse.
Every time I'm out, JTFOXX pulls me back in.
And I just wanted to say to JT that I'm a big admirer of his, because there's a lot of people that talk about success, but he's the real deal. This man is the real deal. He started out with nothing and just didn't even have $1,000 in just a pickup truck, a rusty pickup truck. And look how far he has gone with his will and his success, his knowledge. And in so many different businesses, that's really the extraordinary thing. So he really knows the formula to success.
When your whole life you're told that you can't do things, it starts getting to you. I never really felt like I had the support from anyone, from my family or friends or anything. I didn't want to be a loser, yet I was a loser. The ultimate underdog. I remember in high school where I was walking to my locker early one morning and there was 5 people spitting on my locker. And everything just kind of froze. And I remember saying, am I that much of a loser that people are spitting on my locker? When you grow up and everyone tells you you're never going to make it, you want to prove people wrong. It was me versus the world. And it can be very lonely. It can be very frustrating. And I had no role models, no mentors, no one to look up to. When I was 14 years old, I went to my priest and I said, Father, I want to be a priest. I want to speak to people. I want to inspire people. You go to church and there's a sense of inspiration. And my own priest said to me, JT, maybe God has a different plan for you, but speaking is not one of them. A lot of things that are related to stuttering is about your brain being 3 seconds behind. And with my whole life, people telling me I'm never gonna make it, I think I had a lot of self-confidence issues. And as a result, my brain was not operating at the same speed as my mouth. And honestly, the best way to overcome stuttering is confidence. I didn't worry about what anybody else says. And one day I just kind of lost it, and I didn't even know I lost it. My dream at that time of going to law school was not going to happen, and I couldn't afford to go to school. And I actually wouldn't get out of bed wondering, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? You know, you're 22 years old and you think that your life is over. And I'll never forget this, is that I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and on television at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's one of those infomercials about how to get rich. I went to a presentation, and I'll never forget this day. It was at the Toronto Airport Hilton Hotel, and there's about 300 people there. And you have this American coming in, and as a Canadian, and he's going on and he says, how many of you would like a Ferrari? How many people would like a Rolex? How many people would like all this money? And I remember that as I start signing up, I turned around and there was 350 Canadians shaking their hand going, what a loser. And I am never going to forget this moment as long as I live. The guy at the back of the table grabbed my hand and said, if you don't sign up now, you're going to be a loser for the rest of your life. I had been a loser for the first half of my life, so I didn't want to be a loser for the next half of my life, so I signed up, and I was one of the only ones to sign up. When I started trying to do the things in Canada I taught, and I remember they said, well, it doesn't work in Canada, well, you need to move to America. I had $974 to my name, an old rusted pickup truck, Ford Ranger with 288,000 miles, and I headed over to the border with all of my stuff in the back. All I needed is a first deal, and I did every possible mistake. I tried to go for big deals I probably shouldn't have done. I was talking to the wrong people. I didn't know what I was doing, and I just need that one deal, and I needed to succeed. And 2 weeks before I'm having to move back, I did my first deal and made $70,000. I decided to apply for The Apprentice season 2 and fill out the application, did a video, jumped into Lake Michigan with my suit in the winter in February, and that got me an interview. My business was just starting to succeed, and my partner said, if you go, then I don't think we could do business, so I decided not to go, and I was always very, very frustrated. One day I got up and I booked a ticket and I went straight to Trump Tower. And if I wasn't gonna go to The Apprentice, I was gonna go meet Donald Trump. I get to Trump Tower, and there's a security person and the elevator person, and he goes, yes, can I help you? And at that point, my speech impediment came back, and I'm trying to say Donald Trump, but I'm like, oh, and I'm trying to say Donald Trump, and I can't. And then I looked at it, and there was a book on the side that said it was George Ross and Donald Trump's Billionaire Lessons for the Small Investor. And Donald Trump was his right-hand man, George Ross, on The Apprentice, and was on the show. And I said, George Ross.
I met JT quite by accident as far as concerned. He wormed his way somehow into my office, and I was so impressed by somebody who could get past our security and get into my office that I spent the time with him, and then I learned out that I really didn't know him, and he had figured a way to get into the office.
And they said, called George Ross, and they said, come up right up, and they pressed 26th floor, and that's obviously Donald Trump's floor at Trump Towers. And I think the moment I pressed 26, my life really was never the same. Well, first of all, I didn't go there to see you.
I know that.
I went to Donald Trump and I just couldn't say his name. My stutter came back. And I just remember walking, and when, first of all, I'm like, here's George Ross, and he looked like, how you squint, like who is that guy?
I didn't know. Well,
I wasn't sure.
You said, George,
how are you?
How are you? I haven't seen
nice
you so long. I said, how could I know?
And I said, it's nice to see you. It's, you know what I mean? Because I'd seen you last week on TV, so technically when I say, I just saw you, technically I'd seen you on TV, so I wasn't lying.
No,
so it was nice to see you again.
But that's not the way it came across.
Well,
it came across like you're old friends.
An hour conversation and talk about everything. And then after an hour, George says to me, can I ask you a personal question? I'm like, George, like, we're good friends.
Anything, yeah.
Whatever you want. He goes, who the are you? Remember that?
Yeah, I remember it. At that point, I remember the answer. You had trouble getting past the stutter to tell me a logical excuse.
It did clear me out of the office pretty quick after that answer, though.
Well, yeah.
You'd be like, all right, get out, I got work to do.
Sure, but at that point, you didn't have anything to offer anymore.
No, that I didn't have anything to offer.
I thought you came in as a client, potential client, would make a lot of money at this point, but you didn't have it in the first go-round.
So technically, I got fired.
No, I wouldn't say you got fired at that point. You just, we refused future admittance.
Spoken like a true Trump lawyer. The first time I got interviewed on the radio, I kind of fell in love with it. The idea of talking about, what you're doing and what works. And the station, after hearing my interview, asked me if I wanted my own radio show. And I accepted. And I decided to say, you know what, I'm gonna start my radio show and I'm gonna call it Foreclosure Talk Radio. And the radio station didn't really want that topic because who wants to listen to radio? But I figure if I talk about my foreclosures, I bring my successful stories online, it'd be good for business. Plus, I mean, listen, I'm showing successful stories, so how can you attack me? And so I did the show for about a month, and then they said, listen, we can't have this show anymore. And that's when I rebranded the show to the JTFOXX Show. The show exploded when this was running for Congress. And if you ask a politician to get on a radio show when it's not election seasons, they don't. But when it is election seasons, they'll do it. So I got 3 members of Congress running for the Republican Party to be on the show. And I called the Speaker of the House, Denny Hastert at that time. So the Speaker, the 3rd most powerful man in politics. And I must have called the office over 50 times. And then they called me back and they said, if we have the Speaker of the House on your show, will you stop calling? And I said, yes. So here you are, I have 3 members of Congress, and I have the Speaker of the United States. There are more people on the line on the show at that time than there were on listening to the radio. And at that point on, it kind of really opened up, and the audience grew, and the respect of the show, because every time I call people, they said, well, why should I be on your show? And I'd say, well, if it's good enough for the Speaker of the United States, I'm pretty much sure it's good for you. We had Senator McCain. And Senator McCain got on my show and he said,
how you doing, Punk JT? Now don't screw this up. You're in trouble.
And here you have the Senator of the United States, Senator McCain, who actually ran for president after, calling me a punk on radio. And it just kind of grew. And we had Don LaFontaine, the movie guy voice. In a world. And he'd do me promos. And the show then expanded from Chicago to LA, and then Washington, and in Toronto, and Montreal, and Vancouver, and Houston. And it just kind of, it was a great weekend show, and it was great branding, it was great marketing, and I got a chance to interview some of the biggest names, like Robert Kiyosaki and Gene Simmons, and Ivanka Trump came on my show. A lot of big politicians came on as well, and I really gathered a lot of respect, and that my whole thing was like, who's next in the boxing glove, and it was a great time. Because I got a chance to have a voice, and my whole life nobody listened to me, and all of a sudden people are now listening to me and to my show, so that was a great experience. So at this point I'm a successful property investor, and I've got a successful radio show, and I interviewed a guest named Scott Shield. And got invited to go to one of his events, and there was 500 people there, and he was speaking on stage, and I was just kind of enamored at how people looked at him and how many lives he was changing. And we went to dinner that night together, and he said to me, you'd be a good speaker. And I said, speaker? What do you mean? And you do what I do? And I said, well, I have radio on property investors, and you should try it. And I said, okay, I'll do it. I'll try being a speaker. My first speaking engagement, I announced it on the radio. I announced it everywhere I could. And this is a property group. And that night there were 700 people there. And I showed up to speak, and this was my first time. So they never had a big audience. Local guy, Chicago, JTFOXX is gonna go over his success story. And so I was actually really, really nervous. And I remember, so I go up and I said, hello, my name is JT, and I like you very much. And to do a Borat impersonation, which, by the way, I thought I'd done on the radio many times, and I always thought it was funny, but you know, no one was there to tell me, and nobody laughed. And then it really threw me off. Then I said, only 5 of you will succeed in this room. And there was obviously over 700 people, and people start walking away. And it was just a disaster of a speech, probably one of the worst speeches I've ever given. She said she had more complaints about me speaking than ever before. I didn't understand the power, and because I wasn't connecting. I was speaking at people rather than speaking to people, and people weren't being inspired, and I wasn't connecting with them as a speaker should do. And then when I got my first coach, I think everything kind of changed from that moment. From then on, I'd go through my presentation, and then I start speaking to rooms of 50 people and 150 people, and next thing you know, I was speaking to thousands of people.
He's an excellent speaker. He has the ability to communicate with an audience. I don't care who's in the audience. And he's great because of what he says and how he says it. I think he's a great speaker.
Success is not easy. There's only one thing that's easy, and that's doing nothing. Take risk out, take opportunity out. The greatest risk you'll ever do in your life is not taking one. Go big or go home. Whatever it takes. Never quit on yourself. The fundamentals of what makes a great entrepreneur.
I was absolutely blown away by this young guy with all these ideas. It was just, he was absolutely speaking, you know, things I needed to hear. But truth be told, I thought he was a typical arrogant American. You know, the typical South Africans have this wrong perspective of Americans being arrogant, and that is exactly what I was, ignorant, and that's what I saw him to be.
JT as a speaker, he's brilliant. He changes people's lives. He makes people do things they're uncomfortable with. He helps people grow. He's just an amazing individual from the front of the room.
I am not about hype. I'm only about one thing: results. If you don't succeed, I don't succeed.
People often ask me, what was that one thing that really made you successful? And I think it's coaching. And for me, coaching has been kind of like a drug, oxygen. I can't live without it. I've had a coaching session every week for the past 6.5 years where I've bounced off every decision. When I got my first coach, Paul, he really showed me a lot of sort of life lessons that you experience in life about, you know, how to communicate with people and how to deal with adversity and how to deal with haters and how to you know, make deals go through. And then I've upgraded to his coach, who became my coach, Nito.
We all need heroes, models, and mentors in our life. We all need people who care enough about us to coach us, to show us the way, to sort of spotlight for us the hindrances in the way, and to say, if you do it this way, you'll overcome these mistakes that so many other people have made them already. Why should you make them again?
It made a very big difference. And as I start bouncing off ideas off my coach and make the right decision, I start earning more, I start changing more lives, and I was confident. Even sometimes if I knew I was making the right decision, by having a coach telling me, yes, it's a good idea, go ahead and do it, right? It gave me the confidence.
JT is quizzical. He always pushes back, which is, I think, a sign of genius. He doesn't take things at face value. You have to not only give him advice, it has to be good quality advice, or he's not buying into it. And I think that's what I find unique about JT, is that we'll talk about things and he'll push back, and we'll, through that process, we'll get to the best possible answer.
I don't want to make mistakes, and I understand that failure is important and that everyone fails, but if I can limit failure by asking someone who's gone down that road, I mean, I would say if it's good enough for Donald Trump to use George Ross as a coach, then it's good enough for me.
Well, coaching is important for anybody, but certainly for entrepreneurs more than anything else, because an entrepreneur is entering into a field that they're not really knowledgeable about, and what better way to get help than to get somebody who is knowledgeable to coach them as an entrepreneur, show them over the rough spots and help them when they have decisions to be made which are difficult for them because they're novices.
There are things I would never have done, or the mindset would never have been there without the coaching or without JTFOXX. So I have grown 1,000% in my business in the 3 years. Yes, and I would never have had the mindset to do it. So
we raised $800,000 in one afternoon by changing just one tagline, one strategy, one approach. So I'm sure that that's going to make me many, many millions of dollars in the future.
I have met many people whose businesses were small and became larger and better, and many who have discovered that with the experience they've had through his teachings and so on, have become better business people and have therefore become more successful.
Because of JTFOXX and his brand, and I'm able to get more clients. As you can see now, my driver is driving and I'm sitting here with JTFOXX and able to converse with him. We can be able to speak about business, and then just open my mind to think differently.
And my coach said to me, listen, coaching will sharpen your skills and help you think. And so I started coaching. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed what coaching did to me as a person, but I enjoyed how it changed people's lives. I enjoyed the transformation that you saw when someone comes to you with fear and not knowing what to do, and you can help them live the life they want and they deserve. Coaching became that thing that got me up in the morning, helping people.
From a business perspective, I've seen phenomenal growth. I've seen growth of anything between 20 and 70% in some of my companies because of implementing things that I've learned from JT as I've worked with him as an attorney and seeing how he turns businesses around and changes businesses.
I've always taken advice from people that are more successful than me. Coaching is someone who sits down with you, who gets to know you, who goes deep and helps you build a blueprint together. And that's what coaching did for me. And then I start seeing a lot of successful students exploding. People becoming more successful in a short amount of time than me. Why? Because I told them what to do, what to avoid, how to do it the right way.
Family first means that, one of the things that happened when I first met JT, one of the first things he told me when I first started talking to a lot of students about coaching is never make a decision on behalf of one of my students that you wouldn't make for your own family. And I think about I think about that all the time.
What really brought me into the family first environment was a Thanksgiving. For almost 5 years ago, JT called me and he said, hey, we're getting ready to call some students and wish them happy Thanksgiving. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's Thanksgiving. People are with their families, and you don't call your business clients on Thanksgiving.
Oh my goodness, yeah. This was Thanksgiving of 2009. I was trying to discourage him from doing it, and he did it anyway.
So I was actually away on a trip with my family during this time. And I said, okay, and I humored him, and sure enough, he called that first student. And they stopped everything they were doing. They were literally in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner, and he had said, hey, it's JT. And the person on the other end of the phone actually said, who? And he said, JTFOXX. And you could hear him in the background hushing his entire family down because he wanted to take JT's call. I really bought into family first at that point.
It was pretty amazing to every student that actually received a phone call from him, and those who didn't, he left a message for. He cares, he cares. So I think that's a pretty amazing thing.
Once you get to know JT and what he really stands for, his core values, everything changes. And JT has a lot of assets and a lot of businesses, but he always says his most important thing is the little red armband he wears, rubber armband on his arm that says family first. And I can tell you that with him being like that, I do it too. I always wear it. There's mine. I believe in his concept of that. And I'll tell you what, I was at Mega Partnering where I saw Sylvester Stallone. He's one of my childhood icons. In the Rocky films, the Rambo films, I mean, I absolutely adore him. And he took the time and the effort, and he actually at that stage had something done for me for my birthday. And he gave me the glove signed by Sylvester Stallone himself and worn by Sylvester Stallone himself as a memento. So this is, I mean, I can't even describe what it feels like to get this. This is absolutely priceless. And that's the type of thing that the type of person he really is. So from a family first perspective, absolutely 100%. He truly looks after his family and the people close to him.
You said to me that you had never seen someone as close to Steve Jobs as me. You said they were very similar. What did you mean by that?
You have a very fast, versatile mind, and very often you can see things in their totality, the way they should be seen, and not the little specific features that they have.
JT's great. He brought a couple of people up on stage to make it real. And I thought that was a terrific idea to get even more engagement. And JT has captured these people's imagination, and they are with him all the way. With the opening of this story, when JT was introduced to the crowd got up and started stomping with appreciation for what he's done for learners. And I think there's no better tribute than that.
He's a guy that makes things happen in a hurry. People come to him, talented people, bright people, but they don't know what to do with their future. And they ask him, can you help me? Can you come up with a way to improve my life? And JT is a mastermind. He meets them for a matter of minutes, and he finds a way to change their lives.
And I was honored to be on your WhatsApp as your profile picture with your family.
With my children.
With your children. I mean, I was shocked by I saw that, and that shows the respect that you've given me and the respect that I've given you and the results.
You end it, and you continue to do so, because we share a lot in common.
Enthusiasm and drive and determination, and that's one thing he has, and that's really the difference, I think, between highly successful people and successful people.
Here's a guy that juggles 50 companies and brands. At the same time, he's a global business speaker. At the same time, he's the #1 success coach in the world. At the same time, he's a philanthropist. Now, some love him, some are jealous of him, but everyone has to appreciate JT's energy, ambition, creativity, and the way he makes things happen.
I think for the next 30 years, I want to keep inspiring people. I want to keep changing lives. I want to build companies that change the way we do business or the way people use products and services. I want to set up legacy. I want to truly make a difference in people's lives.
The word philanthropy comes from a Greek derivative, which means friend of humankind. We should always, all of us, be friends to humankind, which means to give of ourselves, to give of our time, energy, money, to make this world a better place. And my experience has been that JT, when he believes in a cause, he's willing to participate in it, and he's willing to get his friends to rally behind it.
One of the things is if you make a lot of money, you have a lot of money, at this more than you would basically need for your immediate needs, what better way than to put it to some charitable use and to give it somewhere that it be well used, well conceived. And one of the things that they said was St. Jude's.
I am very proud of the influence that JT has had on the lives of many.
I've seen JT grow and improve over the years because at this point he has mastered what he does. He's reached a niche of people who understand what he's accomplishing, and he can relate to them.
New blood, $11,000 and $12,000 to you. 10, 11,000 but 12, sir. $12,000 with one of the most important men in the world.
We did it! Over $650,000 was raised. Over $650,000 was raised.
How do you take an icon and define him in one word? I just don't see how that's possible. There's just too many aspects to JT to boil it down to one word.
A game changer. That might be 2 words, but again, that's what JT is. He's a game changer.
Tenacious, as cliche as this sounds, ambitious.
My one word would be, I think he's fantastic.
Extraordinary.
Innovative would be one word. Enterprising would be another word. Determined Any one of those words would describe him to a T.
Billionaire comes to mind because it's only a matter of time. JT will be a billionaire.
Anomaly. An anomaly. I've never seen anybody like him in business. As young as he is, his business knowledge is absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, I have the privilege of working with some really good and great entrepreneurs through my legal practice, but I have never ever seen anybody like him. He's a wunderkind.
Millionaire underdog. Now that's 2 words, but when you're a millionaire underdog, you can break the rules. My parents never said, I'm proud of you. And I remember being a constant battle and trying to get acceptance. I mean, in the end, we all want acceptance. We all want to be loved. And I just kind of wanted my parents to say, you know what, son, you did a great job. And my coach, Paul, said that to me when I first started. He said, you know what, you've achieved a lot of success. I'm proud of you. And I never forgot that. And I've heard that from George Ross and Nito and Hugh Hilton, and these haven't been my families. So you kind of sometimes, I mean, I've got some of my clients who say they're proud of me. And so maybe that's why I pushed so hard. That's why maybe I wanted to succeed. I just wanted someone to say, I'm proud of you. And you know, right after we had our big event with Al Pacino and Sylvester Stallone, I mean, it was all over social media. And my dad called me and he said to me, you know what, son, I'm proud of you. When you have people that truly love you for who you are, and they accept you, and that's why I'm saying, you know, I was very broke, I had no money, my whole life people told me I would never do it. And success does take care of everything.